Alyssa, thank you so much for joining me on the show. I'm excited to dive in today. The energy just feels good. I'm excited about this conversation.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah. We're both moving around because
Yeah.
we're about to talk about dancing, I know. And there's part of me that just wishes we were in the same room so we could just embody it and dance already. How good would that be? But I wanted to really just talk about, starting at the feminine essence and dropping into our bodies, and why dance has been a huge part of you accessing the feminine in yourself and with the people that you've worked with.
Yes. I think it's really important to set context in the sense that I'm actually a yoga instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have formal dance training. I didn't go to a dance academy as a little girl. I was in dance, and then my mom said I complained too much when I was around 5. And so she was like, you're not going anymore. I'm sick of you complaining. So I really don't come from this background of being a quote unquote dancer. I like to establish that. I'm a yoga instructor. That's where I have my certification in. And that's where I discovered a love of teaching movement. I've always loved to move. That's a given. Since I was little, I remember being that little girl dancing to, do you remember the song, the Thong Song by Cisco by chance?
Oh,
it was so inappropriate for a little girl to be dancing to.
I feel like I do. Do you remember how it goes?
That thong, 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 like when you
the thong, thong. Yeah, I know it.
It's very inappropriate for a little girl to be dancing to. And I was a little girl, popping, twerking, totally in it. I'm saying sub 10, literally little girl. I have always loved movement and I've always loved dance, but I didn't start teaching movement until I became a yoga instructor. And everyone assumes I have a dance background. I don't. So I love to just let people know, hey, I think everybody's a dancer. I think it's innate. Babies dance. So let's just set the groundwork here. I'm a dancer. You're a dancer. I don't have dance training. But why dance specifically right now? So how do I say this? I find that dance to me is a different expression very much than any other form of movement that I've tried, including yoga. Even though I love yoga, I teach yoga, I make a living through yoga, and now also starting through dance. But dance is different. Dance for me is expression. I don't feel, to me, that same way about my yoga practice. For me, yoga is really, it's different. It's centering. Dance is expression. And what is expression? Expression, literally, I looked up the definition because I was like, okay, I keep saying it's expression. What is that? So expression, when I think about it, at first I thought it must be an external thing because that word X is in it. And so somehow my brain just thought it must mean something about the outside. And then I thought, well, that doesn't quite feel right. So I'm going to look up this definition. And then when I looked it up, it said expression, self-expression. It's about internal feelings coming out. And is that not exactly what dance does? It brings the way that we feel out. And I don't get that experience with any other form of movement, even my yoga. So if I can tune into a song that I don't even realize that song is exactly how I'm feeling on the inside. And it just helped me to bring that out, to embody it, and therefore bring it out. Wow, that is some serious medicine right there. Or if I can say, I'm feeling this right now, and then find music that matches that and be able to drop into my body and get that out, that is so healing. And I don't get that from anything else. So for me, why dance is because expression, and it's a form of being seen in a way, because when you dance, you're, especially when you film yourself, it's like, hello, I'm here. look at me, see me, which is so feminine.
Mm.
And also it's taking up space, which I'm sure we're going to talk about that too, because I'm all about taking up space. And I think dance does that. I think it helps you to take up space through expression.
I love this so much because I totally relate. And I've grown up dancing, but it wasn't until I started working on my feminine have I really started to embody dance as an expression. Does that make sense? Like I used to dance like, you know, choreographed and in a dance school and and quite rigid in a way.
Yep.
And to now, when I've started to not suppress my feminine and actually allow it out, the dance is so much more of an embodied feeling, and literally what you said, bringing the external feeling out. And it's so beautiful. Even if I'm feeling anger or like sadness or, you know, whatever emotion, I can put on music and it allows that emotion just to release from my body in such a like good feeling way. You know, it's just this beautiful process in order to access feelings, which I don't know about you, but I speak a lot about, you know, sitting in the feeling and feeling it and allowing it to release. And sometimes people are like, what does that mean? Like, how do we do that? And I feel like dance is such a beautiful way of actually doing that. But question for you, there is a lot of resistance or avoidance or, you know, even people watching. Sometimes I put, like you do, videos up of me dancing, right, as a form of expression and release, and it triggers a lot of people. So what is your experience in this from people's resistance to actually moving their body and seeing other women access their feminine through dance?
Okay, so do you want to go into why are people resistant to dance, or why are people triggered by watching other people dance?
Oh, is it two different ones?
Okay, so do you want to start with the first one?
Let's go with the first one, yeah. So people are resistant to dance because?
People are resistant to dance because it is expression. Because it is expression. Because it requires that the kind of dance that we're speaking to, I think, requires a certain level of body awareness and self-awareness. And what you were just speaking to, and this is not throwing shade on choreography, because oh my goodness, I love watching beautiful choreography and I follow so many people that give me inspiration. But what I like to call just intuitive dancing, that's what I'm referring to in the sense of it requires this level of body awareness and self-awareness. So does choreographed dancing, but intuitive dancing and truly just flowing with you hit play and you go. Wow, that is a lot of internal, you gotta get in there and be okay with taking up that space that I was referring. See, there go. You have to be okay with being willing to take up space, whether it's choreographed dancing, whether it's intuitive dance. You have to be okay with taking up space. And by that, I mean being seen. And when we're, say, on a yoga mat, I'm going to go back to yoga. We're on a little rectangle. That feels like we're on our home base. Everyone's doing the same thing. It just, somehow it feels to me safer.
Yeah.
When you go to something like dance, which is just out there and open, and it's very non-linear. And I think yoga, again, in a lot of ways, is actually quite linear. It's front and back a lot. I think that for many people, dance just feels it feels very raw and it feels very expressive, and people don't like to be seen, to be quite frank. That's really scary. Being seen, wow, that's really scary.
And even in your own self, right? Like we're not even talking about dancing in front of people, having to put a video out. It's like literally just accessing a part of you that you perhaps have hidden or haven't accessed before. And so when you dance, and it's not, I know what you're saying about the yoga, because yoga is like safe in a way of downward dog, and now there's this movement and it's like labeled and boxed so we know what we're doing next, and it feels safe because there's like a next step. Whereas dance is, like you say, intuitive expression, where you're making it up, you're letting the love flow and energy flow through your body to the next move, which opens your heart and opens up that vulnerability for you to like sink into that. And that, I feel like, is perhaps a little bit scary, because as much as I love dance, like I will dance anywhere, on the street, in the shopping center, like wherever, I'm happy to dance. But one of the practices that I did with one of my teachers for a specific feminine embodiment was that I had to do sensual dance or movement, starting lying down, utilizing my breath, and then moving in all different positions for 30 minutes. And I remember being like 10 minutes in and wanting to tap out, because it was starting to access deeper layers that I hadn't got to before, because it was so concentrated on a specific music that was bringing different things, emotions out in me. And when you go for that long, when you start awkward and you start like you want to tap out, and you think you're doing it wrong and all of this stuff, and you just keep going, it's almost like I exited my body and something else just took over, and I was in absolute flow. And that's when I've now deepened the practice that I do as dance, as opposed to just on the street dancing. And it's like this actual practice that allows me to drop into something else. What is that? And what have you experienced that?
Yes. So this is all tied together to the point of saying people are afraid to see themselves. Yes, absolutely 100% agree. That's very much, probably more so than them being afraid of other people seeing them, is they're afraid of seeing themselves. Because what happens if you actually see yourself? You're kind of in a place to now do something about it. And you have the choice then, that sovereign choice in that moment. Do I bring it forward or do I shrink back? That's a big decision. If you actually see yourself, you are then in a sovereign choice. You have to make it. Do I bring her forward? Do I not? Do I step back? Do I put this in a little ball and put it in a box? So that's, yes, absolutely. Seeing yourself is very scary, because it requires choices to be made from there. And then that state that you're talking about of flow state, that's the moment in movement. That's the moment in dance, in expression, that you get out of your head and you get into your body. That's the moment that you're referring to. That's flow. That's the flow state. The feminine is the flow state. The masculine is considered the stable state. So quite literally, the feminine is the movement. It's constantly changing. It's energy, right? It's all around. Masculine is stable. It's unchanging, unmoving. It's the exact opposite. So quite literally, when you're moving in dance, you're moving energy. It's all very feminine. And when you actually feel that moment that you're referring to of, I feel like I've left my body, you've actually dropped really far into your body. You're not having an outer body experience. You're having a very inner body experience. It's the opposite, really. Like, you feel like, where am I right now? I feel like I'm floating outside of myself, but you're not. You're just so into yourself.
Yeah,
right?
It's almost like I think what I was, now by you saying that, it's like I was completely out of my head and the judgments and the idea of what it needs to look like or be, and completely just in. So it's almost like you drop out of your mind and completely into your body, like you said.
Yes. So Megan Watterson has a brand new book called Mary Magdalene Revealed, and she refers to this idea of ascension by actually going inward. And that's the lesson of, in the book, Mary Magdalene, is that ascension, resurrecting, if you will, in this human body is about actually going inward, not going out into being, you have to die and resurrect, but literally how, as a human being here, right now, on this planet, in this body, this vessel that you cannot escape, how can you be so much here? How can you be so in your body, embodied? That's the ascension. That's when you get into that flow state, that's that beautiful dance that starts happening. That's when you drop into that Shakti energy, and you're no longer up here in the head, because the head is not the same as the mind. Let's be clear. To me, those are two very different things. People don't tell you, girl, you're so in your mind. Usually they say, you're so in your head, right? So to me, those are different. The mind is like, that's the masculine, capital mind. We honor that, right? Because we need both. We need the masculine and the feminine. Mm-hmm. But we're so stuck in our damn heads. That's what it is. There's so much chatter. To me, that's the out of body experience, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mean like self negative talk, or like
yes.
Excuses, or that stuff is the head stuff?
The constant chatter, that the ego, there you go, throw that in there, right? This constant, endless mental chatter that causes us to feel anxiety and overwhelm and stress, and that inner critic judgment of ourselves and other people that feels nonstop. That is the head. That's head space. That's not mind space. That's you are all in your head. That if you're all up here, just think about this, okay? If I'm all up here, and this is like, I'm stuck up here. And if the feminine is about movement, and I'm so stuck, especially in the toxic masculine, which is the doing and the constant action, which contributes to this mental head chatter. If that is stable, unmoving, stagnant, if it can't move, right? It can't. Then why are we surprised that we feel so stuck in our bodies when we go to try and dance, or we feel stuck in our lives? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's such a correlation, isn't it? It's like a block and the way to move through the block is to bring movement into it, which is going to help you get out of your head, and it's going to help you get out of the stuckness that you feel in life. And so I totally get that. And I talk to people all the time around this, that people that are feeling stuck, and once we kind of move through it, like literally bringing breath or movement or whatever is to it, they're like, oh, like that's not actually the problem. Like the problem is now this. And you can see more clearly because it gets rid of that block. The other thing that I want to ask is, what about the numbing, the numbing that we have perhaps been conditioned or grown up with, that's not allowing us to drop into our body? Because often I hear, and even to be fair, like I was there, like I was completely numb to my body, I had closed off. And this is when I had massively suppressed the feminine within me, and I wasn't even feeling fully. And so how do we, when we say we need to get more in our body, what if someone's like, I don't know how, or I don't know how to even feel because I'm so numb and shut down?
I love this question because I hear it a lot. And I had just went to this past summer, I went to a yoga for trauma training, and we were discussing the body-mind connection. And it validated so much of what I knew intuitively, but it brought it to this concrete, scientific, biological understanding. And there's this principle that's called the 80-20 principle. And basically what that says is that 80% of the information through our nervous system is going from the body to the mind. 80-20, 80% of the information is going from first the body, then to the mind. We probably would think that was the other way around, right? But it's not. The body to the mind, 80-20, okay? So that numbing you're referring to, When we're chronically stressed, say from chronic low-level daily stress, stuck in toxic masculine, or we go through a trauma, also a big trauma, a death, a divorce, some type of loss, either of those moments causes us in our actual nervous system to, those messages, guess what happens? They get stuck. They get slow and sluggish. And how do you feel when you're stressed? Slow and sluggish. You feel foggy, right? Or you feel really anxious. So it's because literally in your body, that's exactly what's happening. The messages are slow and sluggish and stuck. So they're not moving as fast from here to up here, from the body up into the mind. Does that make sense so far? Are you with me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that numbing that we're referring to, literally when you're stressed, either chronic low-level stress over like every single day, I'm just living this toxic masculine, or a trauma, when we're under that type of stress, what actually happens, biologically speaking, is that we start to check out. We literally start to, because of that slowing down of the messages, we're actually biologically disconnecting from our body. Our body and our mind are disconnecting. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Literally, that's what's happening. And so that's why you're feeling that numbness. I believe that's why you're feeling it, because it's physiologically happening and therefore starting to psychologically happen. So how do we get past that and get out of the numbness? You have to activate those channels of energy again. And what is energy? Energy is movement. Okay? Energy is what is in those neurons that are firing those messages. It's energy, it's electricity, and electricity is energy, okay? So, and if energy is movement, then we need to move our body. We need to, even if it feels like I'm doing this and I look like a robot, keep moving. Get in your body in any way that you can, whether it's taking a walk, dancing, running, yoga. Get in your body and use your breath. Your breath is a part of your body. Your breath is your direct connection to your prana, which is your life force, which is energy. It's the human embodiment of life force. That's what breath is. So breath and body, even if it feels like I don't know what I'm doing, I feel like this is stupid, I look dumb, I'm doing it wrong. It's almost like the Nike just do it. Get in your body and practice breath work. Practice breath work as exercise, not necessarily as meditation, as exercise, okay? That's a big shift for people. They think I have to meditate. You're not going to be able to meditate if you're under that level of anxiety to the point that you are numb. Meditating is going to be very hard. So I would recommend to move first, then maybe try some breath work as in breath exercise, not necessarily breath labeled as meditation. Those are two very different things. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I love that, because there's a reason why we feel so good after we've done a workout, or we've gone for a run, or we've done a yoga class, or we've, been out dancing all night. Like, there's a reason why it feels good, and it might not feel good going into it, but afterwards you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that workout, right? Because we've entered that portal of energy and life force and connected back to our body. Mm-hmm. So I really love that. And I think I'd love to go back to the question now of why people are being triggered when they see perhaps somebody dancing, or somebody dancing sexually, or like sensually bringing that aspect of their feminine expression out. Why does people get triggered by that?
I have a great story for this. with my own mother.
Mm-hmm.
And she really pushed back in the beginning when I started posting videos and said the typical things that a mom would say. Why are you posting those? What's the point? What kind of attention are you trying to attract? Isn't this the wrong attention? Isn't this sexualizing women? Why do you have to do that? Aren't you worried that you're going to get a creepy stalker? Literally, like all of these random triggered responses. And to me, like pretty much any other trigger, it's a mirror. I'm being a mirror for something that someone else is not seeing. So if someone is affected by seeing a dance video, to me, it's like any other trigger. What about that is triggering? What about it is it's mirroring something in you that maybe you don't feel in yourself. You see that dance video and you see that woman, that person so in themselves, feeling themselves, being confident, taking up space, feeling sexy and beautiful, and you think, screw that. They're so into themselves. Ugh. No. It's because I believe that, they want that. It's like any other trigger. You desire that. And so it hurts to see someone else in that way. And your reaction is from a very egoic place of being unaware. And in that moment that you have that trigger, if you see someone dancing and expressing themselves and it triggers you and you get that feeling in your chest, or you want to make a sly comment, if you can, and if you notice, become aware and ask yourself, what is really happening here? What is this really triggering? And you'll probably get an answer really quickly. And to be quite frank, I'm very happy that, at least in my generational line, I was having another conversation with a woman who teaches dance. She's a professional dancer, and her mom gave her the same thing. Why are you doing this? The same thing. And we had a discussion about, this stops here for me and my generation. And if I have a daughter, and the way that I want to be an example for anyone that looks up to me, for me in my generation right now, this stops here. I don't want to pass that on. I don't want to pass on that fear of being seen and taking up space and being allowed to love my body and being allowed to love being a woman and not being afraid to express for fear of judgment. Like, that stops here. That shit stops here. I don't want to continue to contribute to that, in my opinion. So I dance.
So it's such an important message, and I'd love to hear from, the groups and that you run and that you take through this dance, of what kind of has happened for people, like what kind of transformation takes place of somebody who comes in not having embodied this and then coming out the other side. Like, what is the benefit?
I wish that everyone listening to this could see it, and more importantly, feel it. I just had my first, locally here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, I have this group called Pittsburgh, and I just had my first dance-based workshop through Pittsburgh. It's this closed group of women, and we just did the first one in September. And it's like a 4-month program. And the energy in that room afterwards, it was just so next level. Like, the smiles on their faces, the energy that was just palpable, that felt like it was just buzzing in the room, that was electric. It was so turned on. That's what it is. These women, they're turned on.
Yeah.
Just something deep within them that has always been there. I call it, it's this fire. And for so many of us, that fire is, I don't believe it can ever go out, because it's your life force. The Shakti is your life force. It can't go out. You're alive. It cannot physically go out. That's why, again, breath is the human embodiment of life force. Life force is Shakti, is feminine. If you are here and you are breathing, it is not out. So let me tell you that right now. If you're like, pretty sure that my fire is out, it is not. It is not. I like to imagine it might be down there, like you might have to get real close to the ground to feel those coals, but I promise you there is some type of warmth and heat coming off of them. And that's what this is when you see women tap into this and giving themselves permission to move and be in their body without shame, without judgment, they turn it on. And that bond, it becomes this, and all of a sudden that's not just coals anymore. They've sparked something, and now there's flames happening. They might not be on that first dance sesh at full blown, like I call the bonfire, dancing around naked underneath a full moon. They might not get there at that first session. It might take a while, but they have gotten some flames going, right? Why? Because, okay, think of it like this. How do you, when there's coals, what do you do to make the fire? What do you do to make the fire come up?
You burn something.
Right. So if you're burning it and you're trying to breathe it, you breathe into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You literally use your breath to like make it catch.
Mm-hmm.
So you're using breath, which is Shakti, which is life force, which is, right?
To ignite the fire.
To ignite the
Mm-hmm.
fire. This is what you do whenever you dance. You ignite and you turn it on, and it's like you breathe life into it because you actually did.
And so how do they walk out? Like, how do they walk out differently to how they walked in?
They walk out like they're turned on to life, to themselves. They walk out with their shoulders back, their chest out, and they're confident, and they're smiling, and they have a glow, and maybe a little stress. And they're always just, the thing is that they're smiling. They're smiling so much that they just look like they just are like radiant, you know?
That's the word that I was literally feeling. And I feel this energy now, like of that feeling, what it feels like, you know, and one of the most beautiful traits of the feminine essence is the radiance, right? Mm-hmm. The radiance. And I was thinking about this earlier of a few years ago when I was very in a masculine job, masculine state, whatever. I remember a guy making a comment and saying that it's not that I'm high maintenance, but I'm bland, like I'm boring. And ever since I've been doing these practices and doing a whole bunch of inventory and checking back in with different experiences in my life, I really was like, there was so much of me that was numb, that was shut down, shut off, not at all connected to my turn on and to my fire. And that's where that comment came from. And I don't even know if he understood where it was coming from, but I get it. Like, I was like, that is so true. Like, there was no life force coming through to me. So I was walking around really numb. Like, I was walking around closed off. Mm-hmm. To now, when we have this expression, like the way that you described it, like they feel turned on, is exactly how it feels. It's like I walk through life literally turned on by life because of the way that I can express and feel the energy so deeply that's just running through me. Absolutely. And so I feel
it's magnetic.
It's magnetic, and it brings out that radiance and that feminine flow that I feel like, because of where a lot of people are working or living life from, is a very masculine world. And so if we're not doing things like practicing dance or practicing movement or having these spaces where we can go to access this, then it's really easy to get caught up in the numbness of life or that world of, you know, rigidity and structure, instead of being able to just fully express. So there's like this dance that needs to take place, literally, to be able to harmonize both the masculine and feminine within. And I'd love to like ask that question for you, because I know you've spoken a lot around, you don't have to completely be one or the other. It's not about that. And it's not about that you can't be an empowered woman in a masculine world, you know? And so how do you find that you harmonize both of them together to be able to build your empire and do the stuff that you want to do in the world, but still be connected to that flow?
Mm-hmm. I think a big part of it is I just posted about this today, actually. One part of it is this idea that you are the leader of your own life. You're the sovereign leader of your own life. And that's the masculine. Masculine is leadership, right? Like, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
It's directive, it takes action. You need that. But then there's also this idea of being led, and that's the feminine, and being able to receive and ask for help. And so that's part of it. But I think that a big thing for me is, I call them space breaks. So if I'm going throughout my day, let's just look at this from the context of a day. If I'm going through my day, how do I wake up? Do I wake up and go into the masculine, or do I wake up and go into the feminine? I wake up and I go into the feminine first. If I go into the masculine first, I'm going to go into a do space, right? I'm going to go into action. I'm going to check my email. I'm going to start doing some type of work, right? I don't want to go there to start my day. No. So I start my day with my feminine, which is about the being. Yeah. So I go there. I ask myself, how do I want to make space right now for myself? Do I want to read? Do I want to write? Do I want to move my body? Do I want to do breath work? Every day is different. I can't do the same thing every day. So I start my day in a very feminine way. And then from there, I've tapped in, right? I've used self-care, which is everything I preach about. That's why I have a whole podcast, Self-Care Spotlight. So I start the day with that feminine beingness and self-care. Then once I've tapped in, I can move into my masculine, and I start acting from that place. And after about probably honestly 2 hours, I have to step out. So I think throughout the day, that's what I'm doing. I'm starting in the feminine, going to the masculine, pulling out, going back into the feminine flow, doing what I call a space break, even if it's 10 minutes, putting on a song and moving, or stepping outside for a little to get some, that mama nature Shakti life around me. And then I'll go back in, So it's that dance of going in and out. It's like, what is that? What dance is it that goes in and out? Like literally, like you take a step, I take a step. You go in, I go in,
You put your
That's
left
exactly
foot in. Hokey pokey.
I was thinking of think of when you're doing ballroom dancing. One person steps forward, one person pulls back. That's exactly what I feel like I'm doing all day between the masculine and the feminine. And then how do I like to end my day? Well, of course, I like to end it the way I started it. I want to end it in a feminine beingness state. I don't want to end it on my phone, like checking emails at 11 o'clock at night. That's setting yourself up to just sleep awful and to feel awful when you wake up the next day. So for me, in a daily context, I think that's a good example, is that it's literally this dance of going in and out of the two. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I resonate completely. And the moment that I found this dance for myself, it changed everything of what I was doing. It changed the way that I showed up as the masculine too, of doing things, getting things done, building business, whatever, because I accessed more of the creativity, more of the inspiration, right? It wasn't just, and the moments that I'm feeling stuck, or I'm feeling like, oh my God, this work's draining me, or feels heavy, and you check out into the feminine and you express and you do that, honestly, the work is easier. And so I think there's so many benefits to like living in this dance and making sure we're accessing it, because otherwise it's so easy to get caught up in the do and achieve, and that kind of, forcefulness.
I love that you brought that up. This is something I try to explain to people when I do my workshops with the journal deck, my company, the product-based company I have. And I do these workshops and we talk about that. People always say that, but how do I have time? And first of all, I always like to say, it's not about finding time. It's about making space. You cannot get more time. You can't find more time. Like, it's not like if you ask Father Time, he's going to be like, here are some more hours. truly that doesn't work that way. There's a set amount of time, but you can make space. So let's just rewrite that right there. You're not finding time, you're making space. And that's just something people always come to me with is, but I don't have the time. And I think that it's you have to think of it as making space and knowing that from that space that you create for yourself, like you said, that feminine energy is what is going to quite literally bring you the downloads of the ideas and the creativity and the insights, the aha moments, because creativity is the feminine. And when they say, I love this idea that I love to tell this to people, when they say the feminine is the receive, think of it as, again, that sacred masculine, let's think of it sitting up there, right? It can't move. That sacred masculine, it holds that's all consciousness, all intelligence. They refer to it as like the big mind. So you can receive all of these like downloads of all this intelligence when you tap into that feminine flow, when you step out of your workday, and then you can pull it down, right? It's like Mary Poppins, it just pulls right out of the sky, and you pulled it down from somewhere. That's that big magic Elizabeth Gilbert, right? Like you pulled it down because you tapped into that feminine and it activated that masculine, and that activation helped pull it down and you were able to receive it. And that's the feminine.
Ooh,
does that make sense?
That's so good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's what I like to tell people is like, listen, if you make the space, you're going to actually, I call it bending time. I think you bend time. I'm like all Albert Einstein on this. I think you bend time. I think you actually, it feels like you get more time back because like you said, you get more of those hits, you get more creative, you feel like there's more of this effortlessness. Mm-hmm. And that is what flow is. It's effortlessness. It's not high resistance. High resistance, think of a bike. If you want to make it harder, what do? You pump up the resistance. True flow state is about effortlessness. And that's what you tap into when you step out for a bit. That's why I say you bend time, because it feels like you're actually more productive and efficient because you have more clarity and you've gotten more aha moments. So you're bending time, like you're helping yourself out is what I like to tell people. Like you've got it, you're thinking of it the wrong way if you think that it is somehow subtracting from your productivity. No.
Good. So good. How does the journal deck help these processes? Like tell us a bit about what the journal deck is.
So the workshops that I do, the journal deck itself it's 52 cards. And that's what I was like trying to hold up here. They're just hard to see on this screen probably, mm-hmm. But there are these 52 cards. They look really blown out, overexposed in that light. They're, I swear, really beautiful. And there are these 52 inspired journal prompts, and there's these 2 editions. One's the Goddess edition, which would be right up your alley. It's all things like feminine. Mm-hmm. And then there's the OG, as I call it, which is more broad themes. And there are these deep, soulful, inspired journal prompts to like get a hit. It's like an oracle card. You pull it and you write in your journal. You have a tailor-made prompt. So what I do with these workshops is I teach that what we've been talking about, that idea of the body and the mind being very intricately connected. And what I like to teach in the workshops is, if you want to call it a successful journaling session, to me, the most successful journaling session you could have is how can you first get into your body and then maybe pull out that journal and pull out that journal deck. And then you've accessed this bigger mind and you're not stuck in your head anymore because you've quite literally tapped in. And so then things are more clear. And I believe this is the same principle for why we move and then we meditate. Asana prepares the body and the mind for meditation, not the other way around. We don't meditate and move, we move and then meditate. So I like to say in my workshops, my methodology is based on the same thing, and it's based on our nervous system. Let's move first, then we'll journal. And that's what I teach in my workshops. And these prompts are helping us then to go deeper into that subconscious, because we're, as you know, Rashmi Patel, she's this amazing teacher. And she says, your mind is like this iceberg and we're existing on the top, the tip. So if we can go all the way and go deeper, like there's this subconscious down there. And people always say after a good journaling sesh, they're like, wow, I felt like I pulled something out from the depths, like where did that come from? Like I got an aha moment while I was writing. I think that's what that is. I think we've gone deeper into the minds. And I love that journaling lets us do that. And I think the best way is to go with the body, then go to the mind, get all up in there with those deep journaling questions. And you get those big aha moments. And to me, journaling allows for feminine and masculine. Because quite literally, if you look at brain scans, it lights up creative areas of our brain, like creative writing. So it lights up that feminine creative side on a brain scan. It tunes us into our feelings, which is, as we've been discussing, very feminine. And it uses a logical, writings-based, what's considered masculine side of our brain. So it's this beautiful bridge of both the Shiva and the Shakti, the masculine and the feminine. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so much. And
it's both.
I love that. And I love, that you have these, that you've created the journal deck, because often a barrier for people is like, I don't know what to write about. I don't know how to start. I don't know how to do it. And so they just won't do it. But having a prompt like that, and that's a special kind of sacred thing to have. Like you could set a little ritual up in the morning or in the evening. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. So where can people go to check them out? Where can people go to follow your work and what you're doing and watch all of your dancing?
Absolutely. And also I love that you just said that, because it just brought it full circle, because people say the same thing about dance. I don't know where to start. People say it about journaling, like, where do I start? And I'm like, well, first of all, I have this handy dandy product that can help you to start. But also it's, again, like Nike, like just get in there and just do it, like just start. You have to start somewhere. So I love that just like kind of came full circle. But where you can find it, of course, both of the versions, are on the website at thejournaldeck.com, super simple. And then it's the same on Instagram, the journal deck. The holiday season's going to be, it's like, commencing. So there'll be plenty of fun sales and all of the things for that. And we're really big around New Year's, because a lot of people want to journal for New Year's resolutions. So of course, like all the things, thejournaldeck.com, the journal deck on Instagram. And then we have the podcast as well that lives on our website, and that's called Self-Care Spotlight. That's through the journal deck. And then if I have a guest on, it's like I always bring it around, and at the end they answer a journal deck question. I pull a card for them, and we have these epic discussions. Rashmi Patel, that I just referred to, she was just on the show. I've been doing that since about 2017, and it's on all the places. I have to get it on Spotify. It's on iTunes and Stitcher, Google Play, the basics.
Amazing. And I'd love to ask, what's your favorite song right now, if you have one that you're just really enjoying moving to?
Oh my goodness. Okay, wait. I'm literally going to pull up my Spotify here really quickly. Do
you have like playlists that you like go on?
Oh, heck yeah.
Do you have...
I make my own. So if anyone's listening to this and they're like, what is she dancing to? So on Spotify, you could look up my name, Alyssa Kuzins.
I'm definitely doing that. I love accessing new Spotify playlists that people dance to. So I'm definitely doing that today.
I love, I have tons and tons of playlists. I'm obsessed with a guy that's from Pittsburgh, actually, named Kevin Garrett.
Okay.
Garrett. And I love his vibes, anything of his. Yes.
Yeah.
Billie Eilish. I love to like get down to some of her. I mean, she's so good. She's so like, I just love her stuff. I'm looking at my playlist right now. Oh my gosh. I feel like I listen to so much music. Yeah. Go listen to some Kevin Garrett, Billie Eilish. There is a song called, let's see if I can find it. Maggie Rogers, anything by Maggie Rogers. She's great. There's an amazing song that if you really want, this isn't necessarily one I'm listening to now, but when I started really posting my videos a year ago, there was a gentleman that I first ever posted a dance video to named John Splithoff, and he has this great song named Make It Happen. That's awesome. And if you want a song that's a really like emotional song that's gonna like feel all the feels, it's about relationships, and it's called We Won't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by James Young and Phoebe Ryan. And it's so good. And it's about relationships. And like, it's good. I just gave you like way too much.
I'm like, I'm ready to dance now. Like I'm ready to go. I'm hoping other people feel inspired to do the same, because, you know, sometimes you just need a little bit of juicy music to just get your things flowing, and it just feels good. So thank you. And I'm definitely checking out your Spotify playlists. And I'm so grateful for this conversation, and I'm so grateful for how you show up in the world and how you take up space and how you just bring your life force, because the world needs it. And I love your message and the way that you're allowing this generational stuff around body image and bringing out our fullness, and you're ending it, and you're just showing up the way that you are. So I appreciate you so much, and thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Like right back at you. Like honestly, everything you're doing, the inner experience is the feminine. The feminine is internal. So right back at you. Thank you.